Today we're looking at factoring completely all of our polynomials. This is section 5.4. So again, methods that we've looked at for factoring, we've got at least 5 different ways that we've talked about factoring. I want you to get all of these down in your notebooks. Taking out anything in common, that's always the first thing that you should be looking at whenever you try to do any type of a factoring of an expression. If you can find something that they've got in common, it makes your life so much easier. You need to get rid of that first. All right, sample. 8m squared 20m. You've got a 4 and an m that you can get out of this one. When you factor something out, it goes out in the front. Anything left over will go in the brackets in the back. 2m left over, and then when we take 4m out of 20m plus 5. Another method to factor was just a simple trinomial. Simple trinomial means you have a 1 in the front of your x squared term. These always factor into 2 sets of brackets. X squared always breaks apart into x times x. And then you need to think, what are 2 numbers that multiply together to give you 8 that will add up to give you 6? 4 and 2, signs are the same, plus and plus. The third option we talked about was a perfect square trinomial. When you look at some of your numbers, you might think that they are super huge. Like, how am I supposed to factor those? If you can recognize that your numbers are perfect squares, then it's a good bet that it is a perfect square trinomial. And we had a trick for this, a perfect square trinomial trick for this. 16x squared came from 4x times 4x. 25 comes from 5 times 5. And then here's the trick part. If 4 times 5 doubled gives you what you have in the middle, then you know that it will work. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 doubled is 40. Yes, it works. So my quantity is 4x, and since these are all plus plus, I have a plus in the middle. This factors into 4x plus 5 quantity squared. Difference of 2 squares is easy to factor. A plus b, a minus b. Again, you need to have perfect squares in both the front and the back, and you must have a minus sign in the middle. 16 comes from 4x, 4x. 9 comes from 3 and 3. One's plus, one's minus. Doesn't make any difference which one is plus or minus. AC method is the one that we try when we've got a number that's in the front of our x squared term. You could try guess your best. Sometimes you might be there for a few minutes trying to figure it out. So AC method always works. AC method, remember, is the a times c term. In our case is negative 40. Now, what are 2 numbers that could multiply to give you negative 40 that will add up to give you negative 3? 8 and 5, but one of these has to be negative. Bigger number takes the sign. Sign in the middle is minus. 8 takes the minus sign. So we're going to break this apart. Instead of 3 terms, we're going to use these 2 terms instead. 2x squared minus 8x plus 5x minus 20. So it's cut and paste these 2 in. Cut it in half. Now you can factor by grouping. 2x times the quantity of x minus 4. Sign after my little curtain was plus, so I have to put the plus in. And then 5x minus 20, I could take out the 5. I'm left with x minus 4. Remember, if you did this correctly, x minus 4 should match in both of these brackets. Take that quantity out, write it down 1 time only, and then in your brackets in the back, 2x plus 5. So your AC method, x plus 4, 2x plus 5. This is a minus 4, I'm sorry, minus right here. 2x minus 4. Excuse me, x minus 4 times 2x plus 5. Now I got it right. All right, on the next page. Do you notice on the right-hand side there I put this little note, always look to keep going. There's many times when you factor something, but when you're done, there's actually something else that could happen to that. So you have to keep going until you always get something in its complete factored form. Key word there is complete factored form. Number 1, when I look across all the way through this, I see that I've got a y in common. Y is coming out first. Y squared minus 4y minus 12. Now when I look inside that bracket, I've got a simple trinomial. That simple trinomial is also going to factor. y and y. Two numbers that multiply to give us negative 12 that will add up to give us negative 4, 6, and 2. Bigger number takes the sign, so the 6 will take the negative sign, and a plus 2. This one is now completely factored. Y minus 6, y plus 2. 3x to the third plus 30x squared plus 75x. I could take a 3 out of every single one of these, but I could also take an x out of every single one. I'm then left with x squared plus 10x plus 25. Now I've got a simple trinomial that I can factor, and if you're looking very closely, you've got a perfect square trinomial. 25 is a perfect square. X squared comes from x, 25 comes from 5. X times 5 doubled gives me the 10 I'm looking for. So this is a perfect square trinomial, which would become x plus 5 quantity squared. Don't forget about the 3x that you took out from the very beginning. That is still part of your completely factored expression. Next one, 5g to the 5th minus 8g to the 8th. I could take out a 5, 8g to the 3rd there. I could take out that 5 and the g to the 3rd term. Leftovers, g squared, and then 80, taking out your 5, 16. Hopefully you'll notice g squared minus 16, difference of two squares. You need to keep going with that. G plus 4, g minus 4, completely factored. All right, now we need to look at the sum of cubes and the difference of cubes. This is different than the expansion that we did yesterday. Yesterday we expanded the quantity of a plus b to the third. This is different. This is a to the third plus b to the third, and we now need to factor that. So here are the two rules that you need to get in your notebooks for sure. Sum of cubes, a to the third plus b to the third, will become, in its factored form, two quantities. A to the third always comes from A, B to the third always comes from B, so the first bracket starts as A plus B. Your second set of brackets, take your first quantity and square it, A squared. Then take A times B and multiply them together, AB. In the back will be your B term squared, B squared. Now how are the signs go? That's where this funny word SOAP is going to come in. S-O-A-P. SOAP stands for same. Whatever this started as is what you're going to have here. Same sign. O stands for opposite. You're now going to put in the opposite sign of whatever you had in the front. And the AP in the back, not Adrian Peterson, AP in the back, always positive. Always positive. Same, opposite, always plus. Your difference of cubes will be factored the exact same way using the rule SOAP, same, whatever it starts with, you're going to have the same. In the middle will be the opposite of whatever you started with. So we start with minus, we're going to put in a plus, and then always positive in the back. Let's try a couple of these. X to the third plus 64. Here's where you also want to be able to recognize your flashcard numbers. X to the third obviously comes from X, but you need to know what 64 comes from as a perfect cube. Hopefully we're remembering those enough now that this comes from 4. Same sign in the front, S, same, plus, plus. Now I'll take my X term and square that. Next up comes my two terms multiplied together. X times 4 is 4x. And in the back is my B term squared. 4 squared, 16. Same, opposite, minus sign, always plus, plus. The second set of brackets, you may look at that and think, can I factor that even farther? It's got a perfect square back there. No, there is no way to factor this quantity. It is done when it is factored like this. Next one looks a little different. It's not difference of cubes, d to the 5th, obviously not a perfect cube. Negative 2d to the 5th, but if you can remember the rule, always, always take out something in common first. I can take out the negative 2, and I can take out d squared. Now what do I have left? D to the 3rd minus 125. And if you remember your flashcards, 125, perfect cube. Negative 2d squared. D, 125 comes from what? 5. Same sign is minus. First term squared. These two guys multiplied together, 5d, opposite sign. And always plus in the back, your back term squared, 25. D minus 5, d squared, plus 5d, plus 25. Factor by grouping, we need to work on these. And again, if you look up here, always, always, always look to keep going. There might be something that you can keep factoring. All right, you've got 4 terms here. Factor by grouping typically means let's cut it in half and see what we could take out. I see I've got a t squared I could take out, and 27, 45. We're going to take out the 9. 9t squared leaves us with 3t minus 5. Sign after my curtain is minus, take out the minus. Do 3t and 5 have anything in common? No, they don't. So the only thing I know I could for sure take out would be a 1. Everything goes has 1 as a factor, which then leaves me with 3t. Be careful here. We factored out the negative 1. Negative divided by negative, positive 5. I got to go back right here. This is a plus sign. Hopefully you wrote a plus sign right there. My 2 brackets match. Write those brackets down 1 time. And now I can put in my leftovers, 9t squared minus 1. Now, do you think you're finished with this? Remembering what I wrote right here? Always, always look to keep going. 9t squared minus 1 has something special going on. Hopefully you can recognize that. Difference of 2 squares. What does 9t squared come from? 3t times 3t. 1 is a perfect square, plus 1 minus 1. And now this one is finished. All right, down here. Factor completely. 10x to the 4th minus 10. Put it on pause. Try this one. Also go to the next one. What do you think you're going to do first? Remembering your rule, always look to keep something or take something in common out first. And always remember to keep going, factoring as far as you can. 10 can come out. X to the 4th minus 1. Now what are you going to do? X to the 4th is a perfect square. Every even power is a perfect square. X squared plus 1, x squared minus 1. Are you done? Hopefully you said no. 10. X squared plus 1, x squared minus 1 is another difference of 2 squares. X plus 1, x minus 1. Three m to the 12th plus 54m to the 7th plus 51m squared. What do you have in common all the way across that should come out? Hopefully you found the 3 and the m squared. M to the 10th, 18, m to the 5th, and 17. M to the 10th, remember every even power is factorable, so it comes from m to the 5th times m to the 5th. But here's what you need to be working on. Can you think of 2 numbers that multiply together to give you 17 that add to give you 18? Hopefully you said yes to that. M to the 5th, m to the 5th are 2 numbers, 17 and 1. And since your signs were all plus, you've got plus. Now inside you've got m to the 5ths. Odd powers are typically not factorable unless it's an m to the 3rd. This is not, so this would be considered finished right here. All right, on this last slide, find all solutions. Solutions means we're actually looking for answers. When we're all done, we should have x equals something. And how do you know how many solutions you're going to have? Well, what gives it away is the highest degree. Whatever your highest degree is in the equation will tell you how many solutions you're going to be looking for. Our equation is 2x to the fifth, which means our highest degree is x to the fifth. I have to have 5 answers. When I'm all done, I should have 5 answers for x if I did this correctly. All right, finding solutions. First off, we need to make sure everything is all on the same side. Doesn't do us any good unless this is set equal to 0. Now think about factoring out anything that you've got in common. You've got an x and you've got a 2 all the way across, so that has to come out. X to the fourth minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. Inside your quantity, x to the fourth minus 6x plus 8. How are you going to factor that? Even powers are factorable. X to the second, x to the second. Two numbers that multiply together to give you 8 that add to give you a 6. They have to multiply to give you a positive 8. And they have to add to give you a negative 6, which means both of our numbers have to be minus. Negative 4, negative 2 equals 0. We're not quite done yet because x squared minus 4 is factorable. X plus 2, x minus 2. Now I can come up with my solutions. You're using what's called the zero product property when you're getting your solutions. Every single x term can be taken out and set equal to 0. 2x equals 0, solve for x. There's solution number 1. X plus 2 equals 0. X equals negative 2. X minus 2 equals 0. X equals 2. This last one, be careful here. X squared minus 2 equals 0. X squared equals 2. I don't want x squared, I want x. So I'm going to square root both sides. And whenever I square root both sides, remember we have to have both a plus and a minus. There's my other answers. So I had 0, negative 2, positive 2, positive square root of 2, negative square root of 2. That comes up with my 5 solutions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 solutions. Okay? So there you have it, factoring completely your expressions and factoring completely with solving an equation.